He's too old to get hard. He can't satisfy me. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Gloria didn't scream when they dragged her into the chapel. She screamed later, inside her chest, where nobody could hear, when her new husband leaned close and whispered a sentence so quiet it sounded like a blessing, but landed like a curse. From the beginning, the warning signs were everywhere. The way the hotel staff in Seoul bowed like they were terrified of breathing wrong. The way her father, a man who used to shout in Kampala like he owned the whole street, suddenly became small, smiling too hard, nodding too fast, like a child begging not to be punished. And the way that 70-year-old Korean man sat like the room belonged to him. Not because he paid for it, but because everyone's nervous system already understood he could destroy it. Gloria knew something was wrong the moment her father bowed to him like royalty. She just didn't know how wrong. It wasn't until wedding night, high above Seoul, in a private penthouse suite that smelled like expensive cologne and quiet danger, that the truth cracked open. He wasn't weak. He wasn't harmless. And when he stepped toward her and pressed a cold, calculated kiss to her forehead, not affection, possession, Gloria finally understood. She hadn't been chosen. She had been claimed. Welcome back to Afro Kadrama Stories, lovelies. Say hi in the comments if you're watching. And lovelies, if you stop in the middle of this story, you will literally have dreams wondering how it ended. So drop a comment now if you're already excited about the suspense that's about to enter your body like electricity. The wedding dress felt like chains. Gloria stood in front of the mirror, fingers shaking against the silk like it could bite her. She was 18. Her breath still smelled like fear. Her mind still sounded like Kampala. But her reality? Her reality was Seoul. A foreign skyline, neon signs she couldn't read, air colder than home, and a marriage certificate she hadn't fully understood, even in English, because everything had happened like a storm. 3 months ago, her father flew them to Seoul on a business trip. He said investors. He said opportunity. He said, we're about to change our life. What he didn't say was debt. What he didn't say was the men who were waiting. What he didn't say was that he had borrowed money from dangerous Koreans after his illegal trading plans crashed like a bad dream. $300,000, a number that sounded imaginary until the men came to the hallway. They didn't argue. They didn't negotiate. They just smiled like death was entertainment. 2 weeks, they told him. 2 weeks to pay. Or they would make an example. Gloria remembered that day like a scar. She remembered her father's trembling hands, her mother's voice breaking over the phone from Uganda, her little sisters crying and not understanding why their father suddenly prayed every night. And she remembered the moment those men grabbed her in the corridor of their Seoul hotel. They didn't care who she was. They didn't care she was a student. They didn't care she had never harmed anybody. To them, she wasn't Gloria. She was leverage. They dragged her into a service hallway and pressed a blade to her throat like they were testing a product. They wanted her to beg. They wanted her to cry. But Gloria did what she always did when fear tried to swallow her. She turned her fear into fire. She cursed them in Luganda. She spat. She fought. They knocked her unconscious. She woke in a Seoul hospital with her neck stinging and her father crying like he had already buried her. And then he came, Kong Jiang, 70 years old, steel eyes, a quiet voice that didn't rise because it didn't need to. He entered that hospital room like the air belonged to him, like danger stepped aside out of respect. He spoke to the doctors in Korean. He spoke to her father in Korean. And when he finally looked at Gloria, it felt like her whole life had been placed on a scale. Not judged, measured, decided. The next day, the debt was paid. All of it. And her father, her own father, agreed to the price without even looking at her face. Gloria, as his bride, marriage in exchange for her father's freedom and protection for her family back in Uganda. There were papers in English and Korean. There were fingerprints. There was a ring. There was a flight booked so fast it felt like kidnapping dressed up as tradition. And now, 3 months later, here she was, the bride, in a penthouse, in Seoul. waiting for a man old enough to be her grandfather to claim what he bought. The door opened, and Gloria's breath caught, not because she wanted him, but because her body didn't understand the rules of fear. At 70, Kong Jiang moved like a man who had never been weak a day in his life. He wasn't limping. He wasn't trembling. He wasn't the fragile old man Gloria had imagined to comfort herself. He had broad shoulders that stretched his black suit like it was proud to be worn by him. His salt and pepper hair was swept back. His jaw was sharp with silver stubble. His eyes were not old. His eyes were experienced, and experience was always more dangerous than youth. "You're trembling," he said in perfect English, a deep voice with a faint Korean edge. Gloria lifted her chin like pride could protect her. "I'm fine." He stared at her for a moment, not like a husband, like a man checking whether his investment arrived intact. Then he crossed the room in 3 slow steps and stopped close enough that she could smell money, power, and something cold. "Are you afraid of me?" he asked. Gloria's heart slammed against her ribs. Should I be? Something flickered in his gaze. Amusement, approval, maybe both. "That depends," he said, voice calm, "on whether you plan to betray me." "I don't even know you," Gloria snapped. Her Ugandan accent came out thick when she was angry. "You're a stranger." "You know enough," he replied. His fingers lifted her chin gently, too gently for a man like him, forcing her to look into those gray eyes. "You know my name," he said. "You know what I am. You know your father borrowed from my enemies. You know my enemies don't forgive debts." Gloria jerked her chin away. "You didn't have to buy me like cattle." His face hardened and the temperature in the room changed. "No," he said quietly. "I could have let them fly to Uganda and burn your family's house with everyone inside." The words were delivered like a weather report, not emotion, fact. Gloria's stomach dropped. He watched her reaction like he expected it. "Would you have preferred that?" he asked. The truth was, her father had already chosen. Gloria had simply been delivered. She swallowed hard. "This is wrong," she whispered. "I'm 18. You're—" She couldn't even finish the number. 70, he supplied, not offended. "Yes." Gloria gathered courage like it was fabric she could wrap around her shaking body. "I heard what people say about men your age." His brow lifted slightly. "Oh?" She looked away, cheeks burning. "That you won't be able to—" He laughed, not a small laugh. A deep one that sounded genuinely entertained. "You think I'm impotent," he said. "I didn't—" "You implied it." He stepped closer, backing her toward the window where Seoul glittered below like a universe she didn't belong in. "Let me be clear," he said softly. "Age hasn't taken anything from me that matters." Gloria's throat tightened. "Then what do you want from me?" His eyes didn't blink. "Loyalty," he said. "Obedience. And eventually, an heir." He said it like he was discussing business, not a human life. Gloria's chest rose and fell fast. "I'm not a machine." "No," he said. "You're my wife." "That's not better." "It is," he said, and then he moved away like he had all the time in the world. He walked to the bar and poured himself a drink. Gloria stood frozen, watching him like you watch a lion that hasn't decided whether you're food. "And if I refuse?" she asked, voice barely steady. He turned with the glass in hand, the light catching the liquid like a threat. "Then your father dies," he said calmly. "Your mother dies. Your sisters die. Because without my protection, Kim Tae-won will treat your family like a message." Gloria's breath disappeared. The cruelty wasn't in the threat. It was in how easy the words came. "You're a monster," she whispered. "Yes," he agreed without drama. He drank. Then he looked at her like the conversation was over. "But I'm your monster now." The bedroom door stayed open like an order. Gloria couldn't move. Her body wanted to run. But her mind knew the truth. There was nowhere to go. Her passport was gone. The guards outside were real, and her family back home was a hostage wrapped in distance. When she finally stepped into the bedroom, she expected him to pounce, to prove his power, to remind her she was owned. Instead, he stood near the window with his back to her, jacket removed, sleeves rolled slightly like a man tired of pretending. "I won't force you," he said without turning. Gloria blinked. "What?" "Not tonight." Relief crashed into her so hard her knees nearly gave out. She hated that she felt relief, hated that she felt gratitude. "Why not?" she asked, suspicious. He finally turned. His eyes held a dangerous intensity that made her stomach flip in a way she didn't want to understand. "Because I want you willing," he said. "I want you to come to me because you choose to, not because you're shaking." "That will never happen," Gloria said quickly. He smiled, and the smile was the problem. It made him look less like a grandfather and more like something devastating. "We'll see," he murmured. He walked to the couch, pulled out a blanket, and lay down like he was the one offering her space. Gloria stood there, confused by the contradiction. A crime boss with standards? A monster who didn't want terror? Her mind didn't know where to place him. "Sleep," he said, eyes closing. "Tomorrow, your education begins." Education. The word sounded polite, but in his world, education meant survival. And as Gloria climbed into the massive bed still in her wedding dress, she realized something terrifying. If he was truly giving her time, then he wasn't planning to let her go. He wasn't weak, he wasn't harmless, and he wasn't done with her. Morning light crept into the penthouse like it didn't know it wasn't welcome. Gloria woke disoriented, her body heavy with exhaustion and fear that never fully slept. For half a second, she forgot where she was. Then memory slammed back into her chest. Soul, marriage, him. She sat up abruptly, heart racing. The couch by the window was empty. For one wild moment, she wondered if the night before had been a fever dream, until she saw the folded note placed neatly on the pillow beside her. "Breakfast is waiting in the dining room. Your clothes are in the closet. Do not attempt to leave the penthouse. The guards have orders. You are safe here." Jay safe. The word tasted strange in her mouth. Gloria swung her legs off the bed, the silk of the wedding dress still clinging to her skin like a reminder of ownership. She peeled it off slowly, folding it with trembling hands, as if it might explode if she moved too fast. The closet doors slid open to reveal an entire new life. Rows of clothes, casual, formal, elegant, expensive, everything in her exact size, shoes lined up by color, jewelry displayed like museum pieces. Someone had studied her body in detail without ever touching her. That realization unsettled her more than the guards outside the door. She chose jeans and a simple blouse. If she was going to be a prisoner in a foreign country, she would at least choose how she dressed. The penthouse was massive, silent, intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed Seoul stretching endlessly. Steel, glass, neon, motion. A world that didn't know or care that an 18-year-old Ugandan girl's life had been hijacked overnight. Breakfast waited on a long dining table. Western food, Korean food, fresh fruit, tea, coffee. Her stomach growled despite everything. She had just picked at a slice of toast when footsteps approached. Jong entered like the space adjusted itself for him. He wasn't in a suit this time. Just black pants and a fitted sweater that clung to muscles she hadn't expected from a 70-year-old man. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd just showered. He looked disturbingly human. "You slept," he observed. "No," Gloria replied flatly. He accepted that without argument and poured himself coffee. "Where is my phone?" she demanded. "My passport. I need to call my mother." "Your phone is being secured," he said calmly. "Your passport is in my safe. You may call your mother later today on a protected line." "So I am a prisoner." "You are a target," he corrected. "There is a difference." He sat across from her, unbothered by the anger flashing in her eyes. "My enemies know I married you. They will test that decision. Until they stop breathing, you do not leave this building without protection." "You're going to kill them," she said quietly. He didn't deny it. "This is Korea," he replied. "This is business." The casual way he said it made her stomach churn. "Eat," he added. "You'll need strength." "For what?" she snapped. "Training." That word again. She frowned. "Training for what?" "For survival," Jiang said, setting down his cup. "You are now married to one of the most dangerous men in Asia. That makes you symbolic. Symbols get attacked." "I didn't agree to this." "Your father did," he said evenly. "The contracts are signed. You can resist reality or you can adapt to it." Gloria hated how calm he was, hated how reasonable he sounded. "Fine," she muttered, biting into the toast. "Train me. Turn me into whatever you need, but don't expect me to forget where I'm from. I'm Ugandan." A faint smile touched his mouth. "Good. I don't want you to forget." An hour later, she met Minso. The woman was compact, sharp-eyed, and terrifying in a quiet way. She wore athletic clothes and looked Gloria over like a weapon being evaluated. "You fought men bigger than you," Minso said in accented English. "That tells me you have spirit." "I got beaten unconscious," Gloria corrected. "But you fought first," Minso replied. "That matters." The penthouse gym became hell. Strikes, blocks, escapes, falls. Her body screamed. Sweat soaked her clothes. Bruises bloomed on her dark skin like flowers she didn't ask for. Between movements, Minso drilled Korean words into her mouth. "Language is weapon," she said. "If you don't understand, you die." By the end of the session, Gloria collapsed on the mat, chest heaving. "Why do you help him?" she asked between breaths. Minso paused, then spoke quietly. "He saved me," she explained. "Trafficking, violence, rescue. A life bought back from hell." "He is dangerous," Minso said, "but he protects his own." Those words followed Gloria long after training ended. That evening, Jiang told her she would attend a meeting with him. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "You said I couldn't leave." "I said you couldn't leave unprotected," he replied. "Tonight, you're with me." Fear crawled up her spine. "They will test you," he warned. "They may insult you, your age, your race, your country." "I don't speak Korean," she said. "You don't need to," he replied. "You only need to remember one thing." "What?" "You are mine." The restaurant was private, guarded, expensive. The men inside watched her like she was a curiosity, a gamble, a weakness. One of them crossed a line, spoke about her skin, her age, her worth. Before Gloria could stop herself, she remembered Minso's words. "Strike the wrist, twist, break." The man screamed. Silence followed. Jiang didn't yell, he didn't panic, he simply smiled. Later, in the car, Gloria shook uncontrollably. "You handled yourself well," Jiang said, pulling her against his side. "I was terrified." "Good," he replied. "Fear keeps you alive." At the penthouse, she ran to the bedroom, emotions spiraling. Anger, fear, confusion, and something worse, something warm. A knock sounded. Jiang entered. "Yamamoto will retaliate," he said. "You'll get a bodyguard. You'll learn to shoot." "Shoot?" she echoed. "Yes." She stared at him. "You're turning me into a weapon." "No," he said. "I'm teaching you how to survive my world." "Why do you care so much?" she asked. He looked at her for a long moment. "Because you are mine," he said simply. The words made her chest tighten. She didn't know when fear had started turning into fascination. She only knew it scared her more than any threat. The first gun felt heavier than Gloria expected. Cold, solid, final. Minso placed it into her hands at the private range hidden beneath one of Jiang's warehouses, the smell of oil and metal thick in the air. Concrete walls swallowed sound. Men moved silently in the background, all Korean, all armed, all pretending not to stare at the Ugandan girl married to their boss. "Breathe," Minso instructed. "Don't fight the weapon. Respect it." Gloria's fingers trembled slightly, but she tightened her grip. "I don't want to kill anyone." Minso's eyes softened for half a second. Then learn well. Skill gives you choice. Jiang watched from behind the glass. He didn't speak, didn't interrupt. He simply observed like a man memorizing every detail. "Feet apart," Minso said. "Lean forward." Gloria raised the gun, heart pounding so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. She exhaled and pulled the trigger. The shot echoed like thunder. The target jerked, center mass. Silence followed. Minso nodded. Again. By the fifth shot, Gloria's fear had shifted into something sharper, focus. When Jiang finally entered the range, he didn't praise her. He didn't smile. He stepped behind her. "Your stance is slightly off," he said quietly in English. "May I?" She hesitated, then nodded. His body aligned with hers, not pressing, not crowding, just guiding. His hands covered hers, warm and steady. His breath brushed her ear as he spoke calmly, deliberately. "Let the gun become part of you," he murmured. "Control without tension, power without panic." Her pulse betrayed her. She hated that her body reacted to him, hated that the fear had started mixing with heat. "Now," he said softly. "Fire." The bullet hit dead center. "Perfect," Jiang said. She stepped away too quickly, breath uneven. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Touch me like that." His eyes darkened. "Then don't respond." She froze. He stepped back, giving her space, but the damage was done. Something had shifted. That night, she dreamed of Kampala streets melting into Seoul lights, of hands that both caged and protected, of a voice whispering her name like it belonged to him. The attack came 3 days later. It was supposed to be routine: doctor's appointment, security escort, quick return. The elevator doors opened into the underground parking level and everything went wrong at once. 3 men, guns already raised. Minso moved instantly, shoving Gloria behind her. "Run!" There was nowhere to go. The doors slammed shut behind them. The first man lunged. Minso struck him hard in the throat. He dropped, gasping. The second aimed at Minso's back. Gloria didn't think. She moved. Her training took over. Grab, twist, disarm. The gun hit the concrete. The man screamed. The third came with a knife. Minso was fast, but the blade still cut her arm. Blood spilled. Gloria's vision tunneled. Strike, knee, elbow. The man collapsed. Silence. Gloria stood shaking, chest burning, hands slick with sweat and blood that wasn't hers. Minso swore under her breath. "You okay?" "I think so." Security flooded the garage moments later. Jiang arrived like a storm. The second he saw Gloria, something in his expression broke. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "Are you hurt?" His voice shook. "No," she whispered. "They tried." His jaw tightened. "They won't try again." That night, he went to war. Gloria waited, paced, prayed. For the first time in her life, she understood what it meant to fear losing someone who terrified you. When he returned at dawn, his clothes stained with blood, she didn't scream. She took his hand, led him to the bathroom, washed him, cared for him. Neither of them spoke. Later, curled against his chest, she admitted the truth she'd been fighting. "I care," she whispered. He held her tighter. "Then stay." She did. From that moment, everything accelerated, training intensified, language lessons sharpened, her world narrowed to survival, power, and the man who had claimed her, but slowly began choosing her. She learned the truth about his empire, the rules, the enemies. She learned that loyalty mattered more than blood. And when betrayal surfaced, from inside his own organization, she stood beside him when he pulled the trigger. She didn't flinch. She didn't look away. She accepted the darkness with eyes open. 2 months after the wedding, her body changed. Nausea, fatigue, missed time she hadn't tracked. The test confirmed it. Pregnant. She expected fear. What she got was silence. Then Jiang dropped to his knees in front of her, hands shaking as he pressed his forehead to her stomach. "A child," he whispered. "Mine." "Our worlds will destroy them," she said, tears falling. "Uganda, Korea, Violence. Then I will leave the violence, he replied. He meant it. Power transferred, territory handed over. A quieter house by the coast replaced the penthouse. Her mother visited. Her sisters laughed again. When their daughter was born, dark skin, gray eyes, Gloria finally understood. She hadn't been claimed to be broken. She had been claimed to survive, to transform, to rule her own story. And when Jiang held their child and whispered promises in Korean and English, Gloria realized something terrifying and beautiful. She was no longer afraid of him. She was choosing him. Lovelies, if you're still here, comment "I stayed" because the ending is coming. Peace never announces itself in Jiang's world. It disguises itself as quiet. Too quiet. Gloria learned that lesson the morning Jiang returned from the coast meeting with a look she hadn't seen before. Not anger, not violence, but calculation sharpened by disappointment. "They know," he said simply. She was seated on the terrace, the sea stretching endlessly beyond the glass. Her belly was still flat, but her body already felt different, protective, alert. "Who?" she asked. "Someone inside the old network," Jiang replied. "They found out the marriage began as a transaction. They know you were meant to be leverage, not legacy." Her chest tightened. "And they plan to use it." Yes. The threat wasn't physical this time. It was reputational. Exposure. If word spread that his marriage had begun as a debt settlement, enemies would frame him as weakened, manipulated by sentiment. And Gloria, young, foreign, Ugandan, would be painted as proof that he had lost control. "They're shopping the story," he continued, "to journalists, to rivals, to anyone who wants to see me bleed without firing a bullet." Gloria stood slowly. "So what do we do?" Jiang studied her for a long moment. Then he said something that stunned everyone in the room. "We tell the truth." The meeting was set within 48 hours, not in secret, not in shadows, but publicly, through a controlled press appearance that Jiang himself arranged. Minso objected. The advisors panicked. The old guard warned him it was suicide, but Jiang didn't budge. "They think the truth will weaken me," he said calmly. "They don't understand power." On the day of the announcement, Gloria stood beside him, dressed in a simple, elegant gown that showed no fear. Her posture was straight. Her eyes were steady. Ugandan strength, Korean resolve. When the questions came, sharp, invasive, cruel, Jiang answered without hesitation. "Yes," he said into the microphones. The marriage began as a transaction. Gasps rippled through the room. Gloria felt every eye cut into her skin. "But it did not remain one," Jiang continued. "I chose her. She chose me. And anyone who believes that honesty makes a man weak has already lost." A reporter sneered. "You bought an 18-year-old foreign girl to settle a debt." Jiang didn't raise his voice. "I protected an innocent life," he said. "I built a family. I retired from violence for her, and I would do it again." Another voice shouted, "What about her? Did she have a choice?" All eyes turned to Gloria. Her heart pounded, but she stepped forward. "I was afraid," she said clearly, her accent unapologetic. "I was angry. I was trapped, but I was not broken." Silence. "I learned to fight, to protect myself, to speak up. I chose to stay, not because I was owned, but because I was respected." Her hand rested over her stomach. "And now I choose my child's future." The room held its breath. The story broke within minutes. Not as scandal, as legend. Enemies backed off. The threat collapsed under its own weight. The accountant who tried to sell the story disappeared quietly, handled without Gloria having to witness it again. Weeks passed. Life softened. The house by the sea became a home. Jiang truly stepped away, handing leadership to his successor, cutting ties with violence piece by piece. He aged differently after that, not weaker, but lighter. Gloria grew into herself. She studied nursing again, opened a discreet medical clinic for women who needed care without judgment. Her Korean improved. Her laughter returned. At night, Jiang rested his head against her, belly whispering to the child growing there. "You will never be afraid," he promised. "You will never be traded. You will never be owned." The birth came on a winter morning. Labor was long, painful, transformative. Jiang never left her side, not once. When their daughter finally cried, Gloria felt something in her chest unlock forever. A new beginning. They named her Grace, because Grace was what saved them. Grace Kong, born of Uganda and Korea, darkness and choice, fear and fire. Years later, people would whisper about the 70-year-old mafia boss who fell for an 18-year-old girl. They would miss the truth, that an 18-year-old Ugandan girl walked into a world of monsters and refused to become prey. That she rewrote the ending, that she survived, that love didn't arrive politely, it arrived through danger, transformation, and choice, and that sometimes the story that begins with ownership ends with legacy. Welcome back, lovelies. If you stayed to the end, you already know. This wasn't just a love story. It was a survival story, a power story, a story about choosing who you become when the world decides for you. Like, subscribe and comment if you want more stories where women don't just survive, they rule.